Welcome to Clotheshorse, the podcast that really, really misses the simple joy of reading the missed connections section in my free local weekly newspaper. If you've never read the missed connections while, I don't know, eating a dollar slice of pizza, have you really lived? I'm your host, Amanda, and this is episode 258. And yes, way back in the day, I did get a misconnection in the Portland Mercury where a stranger called out how mesmerizing my eyes were while I rang them up at Urban Outfitters. And no, I did not respond to the ad because men are scary. I am a huge fan of free local weekly newspapers, whether it's the Chicago Reader, where I found apartments and roommates along with show listings, the Portland Mercury, which I read cover to cover every week for years and years, the Village Voice, obviously a classic, or the Philadelphia City Paper, RIP. I read all of these papers every single week, looking for shows and art events and restaurant reviews, jobs, apartments. You could find everything in these newspapers, all while also reading about hyper-local issues that probably weren't going to make it to the big newspapers, maybe not even be covered by your local newspaper. The journalism and cultural critique were just like top notch, and they were free to the reader, just distributed around town. How amazing is that? Like a lot of real, actual paper media, many of these papers have either moved completely online or no longer exist. And that's thanks to a convergence of things we have discussed here in the past, right? Like our own shift into finding news and information from social media. And then advertisers seeing that trend happening, they shifted their spending away from these newspapers to meta ads, for Instagram and Facebook. There's just not enough money out there funding non-social media, much less free newspapers, which were brought to you entirely by advertising money. Also, I just want to say here again, I've said it before, but please stop using social media as your primary news source. Man, the fake news just keeps rolling. So much misinformation that I see every single day, followed by like every post where I see just blatantly incorrect information. I see someone saying they get all their news from Threads or Instagram or TikTok, and that is really, really concerning to me. So please look other places, or at least, fact check what you see on social. Over the past year or so, I have been doing occasional episodes highlighting different ways we can create and nurture community. And so far, we've talked about clothing swaps, radical sewing clubs, free fridges, and more. And I'm actually working on an upcoming episode about how to host a repair fair. And I'll just say that continuing to share ways we can show up for our communities is just part of the Clotheshorse mission. After all, it's more than just clothes, but clothes are a great case study in where things have gone wrong and how we can get involved. But as I always say, slow fashion is a way of life, and it has very little to do with shopping. And there's just a dash of clothes in there, right? A big part of it is being a concerned, active citizen. There are so many ways we can be an active, positive force within our communities, but sometimes it's just hard to know where to start. And I want to help you with that. If you are doing something cool in your community that is not one of the kinds of projects I've already covered here on the podcast, please get in touch. Let's give people more ideas and inspiration. Because I'll tell you, if there's one thing I have learned online over the past couple of years, and trust me, I've learned about looks maxing and I learned a lot about looks maxing. I'm sure I've learned a lot about reality shows that I've never watched either. But if there's one thing that has been a recurring theme basically since Trump won the election here in the United States, is that most people know that connecting with our communities and being active within our communities is the way forward. They just don't know how to meet their communities. I mean, I see posts all the time on Reddit where someone's like, hey, I know I'm supposed to like get involved with my community, but I actually have no one and no one likes me and I don't know how to meet people. And I promise there is a community out there for everyone, even you, Mr. Dude on Reddit who says nobody likes you. I bet there's a whole group you could put together of people who think that nobody likes them, but people actually do like them. That's a great support group right there. And maybe you guys could pick up litter along the way while you talk about it. And speaking of litter, this really has nothing to do with Clotheshorse at all, except it's currently something that is driving me, I don't know, it's just filling me with rage. Someone who I think lives around here, or at least is passing through here every day, keeps filling a Wawa bag. Wawa is a convenience store chain here in Pennsylvania. They keep throwing a Wawa bag full of like takeout food garbage in my driveway. And it's driving me to the brink, honestly. I'm about ready to sit on a lawn chair 24 hours a day by the end of the driveway so that I can confront this person. But I probably won't because there's a lot of good stuff to watch on TV right now. Today's episode is part of this ongoing project of getting us involved in our communities. And it all starts with a free newspaper. Last month, Dustin's bandmates were in town, and I wanted to show them, like I do anyone who comes to visit, how cool Central PA is. So maybe they'll move here. That's my goal, is that we're all just going to come here because it's sick. So in addition to showing everyone around Lancaster, we took Dustin's bandmates to York, which is about an hour from our house. It's actually where I was born. And I grew up all around York County, but never in York, always like in the small rural towns around it. So we took them down to York, and specifically, we took them to the Kitchenette, which is a vintage store and vegan cafe owned by Kayla and Kylie. And first off, the Kitchenette is awesome. Great coffee, lots of fancy vegan snacks, and all kinds of rad vintage. The decor is so cool. It kind of feels very Clotheshorse coded, so it feels like my ideal place to hang out. It's seriously one of the coolest places in Pennsylvania, in my opinion. And we have a lot of cool places here in Pennsylvania. So all to say, you should come to Pennsylvania and you should go to the Kitchenette. So anyway, I was there, I was ordering my coffee, and I noticed this free newspaper by the cash register, the York msprint. It was full of local news, events, and even, yes, there was a misconnection ad in there. And I was so excited to read it. Kylie told me that she knew the people behind the paper and that they also had told her that they typed the whole thing with a typewriter. And I knew then that I had to talk to them for the podcast. So Kylie made the connection. And so this week, you're going to meet Sara and Matthew, the people behind the hyperlocal small newspaper, the York msprint. They're going to share how and why they decided to start the msprint, along with how you can do something similar in your community. And we're also going to talk about why this work is important and impactful. And then we're going to explain how no community is too small for projects that bring people together. Before we get started, I just want to remind you that everything is 50% off in the merch shop with the promo code The Price Is Right until I get our entire colony of feral cats TNR'd. So far, we are at 6 out of 14, well, really now 6 out of 13. And so here's the update on the project. First off, since the last time we talked, we got Marmalade trapped and neutered. He's a very handsome, long-haired orange cat, and he really is like the uncle to all of the other cats in the colony, not in a creepy way. He just is a cozy, fluffy, big guy who snuggles everyone. Now, interestingly enough, the day that we took Marmalade was also the day that Susan, who, if you recall, was living in her spare bedroom, was supposed to go as well. But she would not get in that trap. So when Dustin took Marmalade in, they said, hey, we don't have any appointments for next week. You can't bring anyone in. And he was like, well, we have this cat living in our spare room. She's been there now for like 2 weeks. It'd be really great if we could get her in sooner. And they made an exception. And last Thursday morning, We trapped Susan and she went off, came home, recovered for 2 days in our spare room, and now she is back out in the yard and she looks great. She seems really happy. She's having a good time. So no more Susan in our house. Even though I really wanted Susan to be our friend, she was not interested, but who knows? Things could change as the summer progresses and she spends more time around me in the yard. So that's where we are. As I'm recording this, it's Wednesday night. By the time you listen to this episode, I will hopefully have trapped 2 more and they will be off on their TNR journey. I said, we only have 13 now, and that is because sadly, one of my favorite cats in the colony, actually Polly, was hit by a car last week and died. I didn't see him, but my neighbor did, and she buried him, and she is a lovely person who also takes care of a lot of the cats out here, but the cat's on sort of the other side of the road. And it's really sad. I'm really sad. Polly, I have known him since he was a kitten. He was the first kitten that came into our lives in this yard. And he was a beautiful, huge, black, long-haired, very handsome guy. And his best friend was actually Marmalade. Yeah, this feral cat colony life is really, really hard sometimes. So that's where we are. And I want to thank all of you who have been supporting this work by, buying merch, donating money. Thank you so much. It feels really good to get these cats in order and ensure that they have longer, healthier, happier lives. Last week, Dustin and I were talking about AI and the grifters profiting from it and the people who use it because either they don't know the downstream effects of AI or they just don't care, or maybe they do a lot of mental gymnastics to justify it to themselves. The new thing I see out there, which I swear is like a psyop for sure, is people showing up to be like, well, it's way worse for the planet to use animal products. So like you can't speak out against AI or who cares? And I feel like this is there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, so I'm going to buy Shein stuff kind of argument. But I think that it did not emerge out of nowhere. And I just want to remind you that you can both not use AI and have a plant-based diet. And if you don't have a plant-based diet, that's not really my business. Still, you should try not to use AI. And it doesn't mean that if you have a plant-based diet, it's totally chill and fine to use AI, right? Anyway, so I have a lot of thoughts about AI, actually. Clotheshorse is an anti-AI podcast for sure. So anyway, Dustin and I were talking about AI, which we talk about a lot. We're both creatives. This is really serious to us. We're creatives who care about the planet. AI is a really big, stupid, scary deal for us. Dustin said something that really stuck with me. He said, all we have to do, the bare minimum, is just try to be good. And he's right. Like, good to other people, good to our planet, good to the animals. Just try to be good. And know sometimes you'll mess up. But that's okay if you just keep trying to be good. I think a lot about the impact of my life and what I will do while I'm still here and what will remain when I'm gone. And that alone motivates me to try my hardest to be good, to move away from plastic and skip fast fashion and minimize my carbon footprint and show up for other people and take a vested interest in the world around me. And even though it's hard sometimes, be patient with others, even if I'm feeling tired or burned out. Like, just try to be good and put good into the world. If I'm trying to be good, then I'm doing something right. And when I first made the decision to once and for all TNR that cat colony, I actually cried because I was so tired and overwhelmed, and it was hard for me to imagine how I could possibly take on one more thing when I feel like life is passing by so fast because I'm always working. And it felt impossible that I could make space for this. Getting up early to trap cats and begging for appointments and driving an hour round trip twice in one day to get them to and from the clinic. it just felt like too much. How could I be good in this situation? But then I remembered that one, if I didn't do it, no one would. And two, I had Dustin to help me. I am lucky to have someone so close to me, literally living with me, that shares my commitment to trying to be good. But the truth is, many of us also have people like this in our lives, even if we haven't met them yet. I mean, you have me, right? If you're out there trying to be good and you tell me about it, I'm going to hype you up on that because we can do good things. We can make good stuff in this world. That's why I'm so hyped on community building, because for most of my adult life, I did feel alone, like it was me against the world. And I still find myself falling into like sort of the mental habit of being alone, of having no one. And if you feel like you're alone in all of this, I want you to know that you are not. But I also recognize that the world at large is currently making us lonely. We're all overworked and underpaid. The algorithm just pushes division and fighting. Third spaces have disappeared. Many of us are coping with illnesses and chronic pain, and a lot of us just don't know where to start with finding our community. And my hope is that these occasional episodes about different ways to build community are helping you find inspiration and motivation to do some community work of your own. Listen, late-stage capitalism loves keeping us apart. When we're lonely, we buy more stuff. It's great for business. So one of the most radical things we can do is get out there and do something new, even if it's scary at first. I actually think that is a great transition into my conversation with Sara and Matthew, who are going to tell us about a new thing that we could try in our communities. So let's jump right in. All right, Sara, introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, my name is Sara. I live in York. Matthew and I moved here about 2 years ago from Washington, D.C., and we really moved here with the intention of creating community. I work in marketing during my day job, and it's really not the most exciting path.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time outside of work doing things that make me feel like I'm contributing to the community and make me feel excited about life and about my community. So one of those things is the msprint, the newspaper that we work on. And I also do a lot of things with music. We're in a band and creating zines. I help organize Lancaster Zine Fest. So a lot of like little activities like that. And yeah, that's kind of my general situation.
Awesome. Matthew?
Hey, I'm Matthew. I also live in York. And I'm very passionate about like finding a lot of community, like Sara had said, and I think that comes from being like a musician first and foremost, and cutting my teeth in a lot of DIY scenes, and just seeing a lot of the power that can come from a bunch of people just banding together.
I love that. I mean, that's what I'm here to talk to the two of you about today. And something that struck me from your introductions was the fact that you once lived in Washington, D.C., and you moved to York. Now, people who are listening to this are like, I don't know what that means. Did they actually mean New York? Like, what? Yorkshire, England? Like, what's happening here? And I'm going to tell everyone who's listening, you know, York is the next county over from the county I live in. I live in Lancaster County. And, you know, York County, much like Lancaster County, is pretty rural, but there is like a city called York that, I don't know, I would say it's probably comparable in size to Lancaster. They're probably pretty close in size. And I grew up in York County. Now, not in York, as we would call it, in town when I was a kid. I grew up on the rural side of the county. I mean, we moved all over the county as I was a kid, but the longest place we lived had just a population of a few hundred people. For me, growing up in York County, I couldn't wait to get away for a lot of different reasons. But generally, York is not a place people move to. It's kind of a place that they grew up and stayed. They have family there, perhaps. And maybe they move away from there, but they don't say, like, I'm going to move from a city, like a big city, like Washington, D.C., to York. So please tell us why you moved to York.
Yeah, so we loved living in D.C. Before D.C., I lived in Boston. That's where I went to school. So I've lived in, and we both grew up outside of Philadelphia. So we've actually lived in or around a bunch of big cities. And DC was really great for us. We built a lot of community there, made a lot of connections with people, and I think that both of us learned a lot about how to run a community space with intention and just like to bring in people of all types to work towards a common mission. But just over our time in DC, we were kind of thinking that we both knew that it wasn't where we were gonna end up long term, and I think some of that was wanting to be close to family and having more access to open space, etc. But a big part of it for me definitely was feeling like a lot of the people that we were meeting in DC were just like us and like kind of pushing in the same direction that we were, but it felt like there was already the niche of people that were doing community work in DC, and not that it was ineffective, because there's totally a ton of really great stuff happening there, but it felt like the need was greater elsewhere where there wasn't already that strong community center and people maybe working towards that. And I don't want it to sound like we came into York being like, we're gonna fix this place, because that was not at all the vibe. We came to visit and we really loved all of the artist communities that we saw here. It felt like an accessible place to be an artist, an accessible place to build community, and there already was a lot of good community initiatives happening, and it just felt like somewhere where our energy would be able to be put to extremely positive use. And I've definitely felt that since moving here. So it was kind of a lot of factors that all pushed in that direction. And a big surprise since moving here was that a lot of the people that we've been meeting actually are transplants that moved to York, which I was very surprised by. And one of the big reasons for that is just because it's an affordable place to be an artist or to be a creative person in a way that isn't really possible, certainly not in DC. Walking down the street in DC, it's very rare to see an artist studio that is run by an individual or someone else, especially someone else that has another career path or another job and is able to sustain themselves on that work. So, but that is possible here. And so that allows people to just experiment and do stuff that might not work and might be a little bit wonky, but is them expressing themselves. And that's how cool, weird stuff happens in the world when that is possible. So that's something I love about this area.
You hit on so many things that I have been thinking about a lot in the past few years. We moved to Lancaster County about 2.5 years ago from the city. My husband and I are both from rural areas, but we've lived in cities all around the country. For me, chasing my career, for my husband as a musician, that's where you're supposed to be, right? That was, totally. Or at least that was the logic. That's where you're supposed to be. And since we've moved back to Lancaster, we meet so many cool people everywhere we go who, like you were saying about York, are not from here. They moved here because they are creative people who want to be able to sort of have the freedom to be creative people. And the fact that it's more affordable here and there's more space makes that possible. It fosters more creativity when you're not every month worrying about how you're going to pay your rent.
Absolutely.
Right? Capitalism stifles creativity, even though the whole concept of capitalism is supposed to be it fuels innovation, blah, blah, blah. That hasn't happened in a really long time, And I do think the idea, I was saying, my husband is a musician. He needs to live in a city. For me to have a career, I need to live in a city. And if we want to encounter art and good food and interesting people, we have to live in the city. That ship has sailed.
Yeah. Well, it's just not true.
It's just not true. Yeah. Anywhere can be cool now. And I think, the internet has helped, right? It connects us to people outside of our immediate geographical space. But there's also just something else going on that I can't put my finger on.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you're saying. And I feel like when people I totally resonated with that idea of like having the freedom to be creative. And when you don't feel like you have this like 100 million pound weight of, trying to survive over your head, suddenly you feel like you can do cool things. And like, it doesn't have to be things that will sell or be profitable. Because like, give me a break. So, I feel like that's crucial.
So Matthew, like, what has the experience of living in York been like for you?
I think one of the things that's been like the biggest difference of being like trying to find community in York versus finding it in DC is that the diversity in ages that we're interacting with in York is far greater than what we had seen when we were in DC. And not only like are a bunch of our friends in York like 20, 30 years older than us, we're also interacting with like a lot more parents and children and like in spaces where parents are like bringing their kids to different like art events. And that was something that like I think I met 2 children living in DC for 4 years.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like, it's very interesting because like Sarah was saying, when we were in DC, there was kind of this feeling that all these people we're meeting were kind of like just like us or like kind of like clones of us. Like, oh, all these like young white 20-somethings who just graduated from college and moved here. And like the old guy of the group had like just turned 30. And it's just so different, like being in these like multi-generational spaces, even when we're just like doing casual stuff like and like we go to a weekly art night, and that's just a casual space. It's not something we're focused on like learning or like talking about our experiences and stuff, but it just like bleeds into everything because our age when we grew up shaped so much of who we are, and it just leads to such an interesting discussion and getting a lot of different perspectives that otherwise we wouldn't have seen in a room of a bunch of people our own age.
I think that is so interesting and absolutely true. I'm a little bit older than both of you, but I felt like living in the city, my friend group and the people I encountered most were always in my same age group, no matter what my age was. Like we just moved together. And so I never met older people. And then as I got older, I never met younger people. And even here in Lancaster, it is true that when you go to any sort of like art event, there are so many different people there of different ages. Like you were saying, children, once again, another part of city life for many of us that just, unless you are like, you have children and a lot of your friends have children, you don't like see children very often. It's really strange how that works. But yeah, I'll go to cool art things here or like a house show and there's children there. And it's just like so completely different from the experience of living in the city.
Totally.
I think, too, like, I love talking about this because I think there are going to be people who are listening to this who live in a city, and a lot of the things you're saying are going to resonate with them. But I think also a lot of people are going to listen to this who do live in small towns, rural areas, who feel that building community, doing cool stuff isn't possible there because of the size of it. And I would say, actually, you're like lucky. It's going to be easier to do something.
Totally. I agree with that. I think like even if it's not easier to get the ball rolling and you might feel like there's a lack of initial response in a smaller community, it feels like the potential is huge for you to make a bigger impact because there can only be so many like art clubs in a city or like so many street cleanups in a city or so many like mutual aid groups before it starts feeling like we should just stop creating new ones and start like putting energy into like what is actually already here, and I think that like that's like a huge part, leftist infighting happens because of that, because all these people are like creating new groups and like not trying to like band together, which I think is like its own problem. But
yes,
like I think that like in a small area, if you dream it, you can build it, which like is so cheesy, but it's so true. Like chances are there are like buildings that have spaces that you can reserve for free, like whether it's a library or like some kind of community building, or it's like someone that owns like a storefront that is willing to have like off hours meetups for things. And like it probably wouldn't, or you can do things at your house obviously too, if you have space, but like the like locational barrier is a lot easier to overcome in more rural areas, because like in high cost of living areas you often have to like pay a lot more money to host events in a space, and so like to get a recurring event to happen, like you're just a little more limited, or it's like in free spaces like libraries, they're already booked, or it's hard to like find that, like then you're limited by time and all of these other things. So like all you really need is like yourself and the idea, and then like one or two other people to help you feel like you're not by yourself when you go for the first time. And I like just feel like who cares if not that many people show up? Like if you keep doing it, eventually it will grow and it will be what you hope it will be, or it will pivot into something else and you'll just kind of learn from the experience.
Yeah. And like I think that a big thing is that when you're in a city or just an area with a higher population, like naturally there's going to be more people that are initially like down to do or participate in what you're trying to organize. And I think like a big thing about finding community and finding opportunities in these like smaller population areas is that like you can't fall into the trap of needing instant gratification. If you get like one person showing up, that's huge. And like chances are you're not that special. You're not the only person in that area that like wants the thing that you're trying to do. Like there's gotta be somebody out there. And even if it is just one person, like now you've got two people doing a thing. And if you just keep doing it, you might get a third. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I've always been one of those people who's like, you know what? I would rather have a few really good friends than feel like super popular and have a bunch of people who are just more my acquaintances, And I feel like the same can be said for starting anything in a small town, rural area. Like maybe you're not going to have 100 people showing up every time, but I bet you're going to have really quality, significant interactions with the people who do come.
Oh my gosh, we had I helped run this Skillshare event through Lancaster Zine Fest, but it was here in York, and it was the first York event that we did through Lancaster Zine Fest. And the idea was people would come and work on a page that was explaining a skill that they wanted to put in this collaborative zine, and then it would the finished product would be this free zine that has all these skills that you can learn. And I was expecting like not that many people to come. I feel like the Lancaster Zine Fest events, like a lot of them have a ton of people turning out to them when they're in Lancaster. And I was like, steeling myself for this York event to not have that many attendees. I was so over the moon happy that we had like 25, 30 people there. I was like, this is the best day ever. And like, I feel like if I would have run a similar event in DC and I would have gotten like a similar turnout, I might have been like, oh, like that was good. I just like, I wouldn't have been disappointed, but like, I certainly wouldn't have been like, this is amazing,
Yeah.
But like, you feel so accomplished when like everyone turns out. And I mean, it's just like, everyone's so excited to support what Matthew and I are doing in a lot of ways. So we're really lucky for that. But I just like, I feel like it goes to the point of just like in certain areas, you feel like just supported by the community when they are excited to like see what you're doing.
Totally. And I will also say, like, I am seeing a sort of like small business renaissance happening like here in Lancaster County and in York and like kind of everything in between right now. Like small towns along the river and whatnot, where all these like cool stores are opening that you would expect to see in the city. But the thing is, like, people can't afford to do it in the city anymore. I was telling you all when we prepped for this episode, like, the last time I went to New York, and no offense to anyone who lives in New York who is listening to this, I was like, it's kind of boring here. Like, oh, cool. There's like a Michael's and a TJ Maxx and like all these stores I could just like get in the car and drive out to like Route 30 and go visit, you know? And here we have like so much cool stuff coming, things that already exist. Same thing is happening in York. And like, I don't know, like I just feel like all the things that I felt like I once had to go to a city to experience, I can get here now. And that is just such an incredible like quality of life gain. I don't know. I am like very pro small town at this point. And I'm going to tell you, if you asked me this when I was a teenager, I would have been like, fuck no, I can't. I'm going to New York City the moment I graduate from high school.
Yeah.
Which is what I did. I was like, I'm getting out of here and I'm never coming back. And then we moved back to here to central Pennsylvania, to Lancaster. And I was like, this is the best thing ever.
Totally. And I think that, I mean, a lot of people have that feeling when they're growing up because it's being told to them that like you have to get out of here, like you have to do something better for yourself. And it's just like very situationally based on like what is actually quote unquote better. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of stereotypes around like, you know, the fact that you can or can't be successful in a certain area. And I think it just has to do with what is best for the person. And like some people, you know, really thrive and do amazing in cities. And like I said, like we loved living there. And like just appreciated our time there so much. But I think that like other people maybe that would be successful in, you know, small areas and feel like that sense of community building and change happening, feel kind of like scared away from it because of these like external pressures of people telling them that that's like not as successful in like some kind of like corporate or like societal way.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's like it's definitely like in pop culture, even as this like trope that, you know, if you're like this dreamer, this artist, you're really smart, you're going to move away from your small town to the big city and get discovered, right? And conversely, the theme of like 9,000 like Lifetime and Hallmark movies is big city person has to go back to their small town for some family thing, and they poo-poo everything there and they think it sucks, and then they learn to love this place and like fall in love or whatever.
Right. And I feel like the like meet in the middle, happy, like, you know, compromise is like maybe people should just like try different things and see what works for them, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Like, not so radical, but like maybe true.
Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about the msprint. So why don't you tell me what made you decide to start a free, literally on paper newspaper did you start it this year or did you start it in 2025?
We started it this year in August. So it was so it was August 2025. It was last year, but we're thinking August to August as a year.
And you think about like, okay, we live in this time where like most people don't even see a newspaper in their day-to-day life, like period, right? And then on top of that, like this idea of like free city weeklies, which like people just don't even know what an incredible tool they were for finding shows and art and an apartment and jobs and keeping up what was happening like locally in your city. Most of those free weekly newspapers are also gone now. So it's just like real, tangible, physical media that you read that's hyper local. It's kind of like such a rare thing. And you decided to start that in 2025. Why?
I think like there's like a lot that went into it of like in terms of like why did we make the form and choose to do this. One of the first things we signed up for when we moved was we got our subscription to the York Daily Record newspaper, getting our Sunday paper once a week, and which like is such an old school thing to do, but like we were interested in like finding, you know, something that's like what's going on here. And being kind of like thoroughly disappointed that like most of the paper is like syndicated USA Today national articles.
Yeah.
And like there's, there is some local stuff in there, but it's, the majority of the paper doesn't focus on what's actually going on here. And then I feel like that combined with some like just like a growing obsession about like periodicals of me and Sarah like subscribing to a bunch of like magazines really got us into just like the concept of print media and just like enjoying the feeling of holding paper. So I think that played a lot into the form of it. But I don't know, Sarah, do you want to explain some of the like why it feels important?
Yeah, and like also just to continue what you were saying about the form, I mean, it essentially is a zine. Like it's a newspaper, but it's a zine, and like that's because that's what, I've spent the last like however many years doing zine stuff for different organizations. Like down in DC, it was a big part of my life there, and the first thing I got involved with up here was Lancaster Zine Fest, and I think as a kid, I always wanted to start my own newspaper, but it always felt like, well, how do you like know the stuff to write about? And I have no like real background in journalism. I wrote for like my high school newspaper for literally one semester. But I think that like I have a background in writing. Generally, I have a background in like talking to people and community stuff. And that's like all it really is. Like, I felt like it was important for us to do because, we would walk into spaces where people would be telling us about an event that like either had just finished and we had no idea about it, or they would be like, oh, are you going to like X person's talk that's happening in 15 minutes down the road? And we would be like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So, I think that like with the like Instagramification of event culture, like people post things on individual accounts that you have to know someone to know that you should be following that account. And when you like first move to a place, there's usually some kind of like event conglomerate like Instagram account, or like, someone that's like a local influencer that's like connecting all these things, but it feels so online, and like it just feels so social media-ified. And that's like sometimes very effective, like we were saying earlier, for connecting people, but I felt like I wanted something that was like physical and I could hold in my hands and felt like a continuation of like my zine stuff. I like always talk about how zine things are community bulletin boards in my mind, because anyone can say anything and just like hand it to someone else, and then it's like a movable bulletin board. And so that's kind of like what the misprint is for us.
I mean, I think you hit on so much here that it's important to call out that people maybe are sort of feeling, but not, I don't know, like they haven't been able to articulate it. And that is that it's really difficult to know what is happening around you because, the era of Facebook events is gone, which honestly was a pretty good like bridge out of like local newspapers. Strangely enough, it was like hyper effective, right? You could see it all in one place. And then those, I don't know, someone sent me like a Facebook event, like invitation like a year ago. And I was like, wait, those are still around. But now it's like Instagram or TikTok focused. And if you don't know to follow the account, and if the algorithm isn't serving it to you, you will literally never know that something is happening. And in most cases, strangely enough, the algorithm is probably not going to serve it to you because it's too hyper local to get the kind of engagement that the algorithm prioritizes. And on top of that, I swear to God, if Instagram has even an inkling that you might make money off of something, even if it's $1, they're like, we're not showing that to anyone.
No, totally.
And so it is just like really challenging to find stuff happening around you. Even if you live in a big city, it's just like you'd have to spend hours every day combing the internet to find a place, or not even to find a place, to find everything and then make a list and then remember it. And I think that is one of the obstacles facing people who are really looking for their community. I think it has to be so hard to move somewhere brand new right now. unless you're a particularly outgoing person, because you don't know where to start.
Yeah, and I also think that, you know, that was kind of like definitely the intention behind the events page, just to help people feel like they have a place to start. And like, by no means are we trying to capture every event that's happening in the area over the next month, because that would be literally impossible.
Yeah.
But the idea is that, like, there are things happening, you know, like, it's kind of like a rebuttal to people who think that like nothing goes on in York, or to people that are like sitting at home being like, nothing ever happens, I don't know where to go, I don't know what to look at. And like, here's like, okay, here's 15 things in your lap that are happening in the next 3 weeks. Like, that is like, and you don't have to like click between pages or like Google anything or go on like TikTok, like everything's right there. And so like, in my mind, like, it doesn't actually even matter if someone doesn't go to any of the events in the paper, because it's still like a subtle reminder that like, I could be going to this stuff, there is stuff going on, I could start my own things, like I could be on the paper. Like, you know, every time I hand someone a paper, like physically, I'm like, please submit articles, please submit events, if you ever host anything, let me know. And like, people that were not previously thinking about hosting an event are like now suddenly like, could I host something? Could I be in the newspaper? And I hear that, like, people literally say that to me. So like, it's like kind of just like I want it to be like a catalyst a little bit for that, just like mental shift that like, it could be me doing something.
I love that. I love that. So, you know, one of the things that really just like made me so excited the first time I saw the misprint was, one, I was like, oh my God, it's like a free hyperlocal weekly newspaper, which I miss so much. I think the fact that, yes, it technically is a zine, but it feels like a newspaper is so significant. It actually reminded me of, I got a typewriter, like, I don't know, my grandma got me like a typewriter at a yard sale or something when I was in second grade. And the first thing I did with it was like, I'm starting a newspaper.
Yes.
So I would just like type up on like legal paper, 'cause that's all the paper I had, all these like stories about like the cats, or like what was going on with my grandma, or what happened on TV, and pass them out to people. And I just like, I don't know, there's, even if no one ever reads your newspaper even one time, it feels so good to just do it.
It feels so
there
good.
has to be joy in that, right? Yeah.
Also, do you know that our newspaper is literally on legal paper?
No way. I mean, it's the best. I don't know why all newspapers aren't on legal paper.
It has that kind of like weird form factor of like the constant rotation. So if you like flip through it the right way, then you're back at the beginning when you flip through the whole thing. Which
Wow,
is like...
interesting. So I heard a rumor that you type the entire thing on a typewriter, which of course warms my heart as well, because I'm a big fan of typewriters. But as a person who has used a typewriter quite a bit, it's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed today, actually, I was typing something up, not for the newspaper, and I was like, wow, I'm good at this now. Because we just did month 9 of the newspaper and distributed it. So I've been, like, you know, the last 9 months of my life, I've been doing a lot of typewriting. But yeah, so basically, everything is typewritten originally. It's not like we're like individually typewriting each copy. That would be crazy. But
yeah, no, that's too much.
Someone asked me that last week. They asked me if I type individual copies. I was like, oh, no. But yeah, so we type them up. I type each article up, and then I hand it to Matthew, and he scans it in and like makes sure everything looks right with the contrast and everything. And then basically we format it using Figma. So I use like the free Figma. I still don't pay for it.
Whoa. Okay. I upgraded. I use Figma for everything.
Yeah.
I did. I upgraded to the paid Figma last year after like 4 years of using Figma, but only because I was having, this is like so silly. I was having a problem with Figma, and I was like, well, maybe if I pay for it, this like problem will go away. It didn't actually,
No.
But then I was like, okay, I'll just keep the subscription because I have been using this for so many years now.
Yeah. No, it's, I had a friend tell me that eventually which I knew would be the case, but like eventually I'm gonna run out of space. But like so
You
far,
will.
yeah. So anyway, that's my that's a later problem. But for now, it is like the most as accessible as could be, because like the PDF. I mean, I guess Matthew, do they get scanned in as images? I guess.
Yeah, they're all scanned in as uncompressed images, and then that's what you dissect and pull apart.
Right. So I put it into these like 3-column designs, and then everything is pictures. Like it's nothing is text, so it makes it easy to like relatively easy to format. You know, you're not worrying about like text boxes flowing into each other because it's all just like photo content basically.
Can you just like kind of give an overview of like beginning to end how an issue comes together? Do you put it out once a month, right? It's a once a month thing.
Yes.
I mean, I hate to sound like a corporate here, but could you walk us through the workflow?
Yeah. So our goal is always to hit, I think Sara had said like we do about like 15 events we capture in there. And then on top of that do 4 articles that are talking about something that's local to York, and like what's actually going on in the communities. So usually as the month is going on, so like right now we're thinking about May, as we go to different events like our weekly art night, and things like that, we'll just keep our ear open for when people are talking about events and, jump on them and say, hey, wait, is that a public event? Can I put it in the paper? And so it's just kind of like we do a little of that, do a little investigative research on Facebook still, just like look at what businesses typically do events. What are they doing? Is there anything? And like try to keep in balance, keep in mind a balance between, visual arts events and like some like punk shows and environmental events and things that are just like, volunteering and community events. Like anything that's like, we try to highlight a lot of stuff that's like mostly free events, stuff that isn't really like, stuff that's like not always like recurring, like if a place is doing like a workshop every month of like the same thing, it's like, okay, people might know that exists. So I think that's kind of our thoughts on like the event stuff, or like looking at the events. And then for the articles, usually we try to find like one event in, so like right now, like in April, we'll think of like what event would be cool to attend in April that we can write about as like a retrospective in the May issue.
I love that.
And just so that we can like connect, a lot of times it is like, the April issue goes out, we say, hey, there's an event that like will be happening, and then when that event comes around, like we'll attend it and then write about it in the next one, in kind of just like nice getting like a thread through of like, building a fuller picture of what's going on. But then aside from that, like the other articles in there really have ranged from like everything from like interviews to just like political thoughts, and just really whatever comes to us in that month. And
so you figure out what's going to be in the issue, and then Sara, are you the typist for the project?
I am the typist. So yeah, Matthew and I write out. The goal is that we would have articles submitted from the community. The April issue is our most successful issue with that, where 2 of the 4 articles were submitted to us from the community, which is like a huge accomplishment for us. That was really, really major, because it's like actually really hard lift to ask someone to write a whole article when, we're not getting paid for this. No one's getting paid for this. It's just like purely like, are you excited about it and motivated? And you can write like, it feels like a little bit like homework, to ask someone to do it. So we had 2 articles submitted this month. And then usually Matthew and I will write the remainder of the articles, whatever is not submitted. And then, I have more of like a formal writing background, so I am like our copy editor, and then as I go through that process, I just make sure to type it up, and then it goes through like some other, like as you type it, you notice like weird things, so I make changes at that point too. But yeah, usually like the ending processes of things getting scanned in are really happening up to the wire. This is like really, we're on deadline to submit everything to ourselves by the Wednesday before First Friday, whenever that is in the month, because we have everything printed for Thursday night and folded so that we can distribute it to people that are shop owners leading up to First Friday. So Thursday night we hand it out to some of our friends that own shops, and then on First Friday, Matthew and I walk around and we do our quote unquote paper route, where we just walk to different businesses that are open and talk to the shop owners and like make sure they don't have anything for the next month that they like know immediately or have thoughts, whatever, because that's like, these conversations are what triggers things for us to remember to know to include, or like classifieds for future months or whatever it is. And the paper route kind of lasts through Friday night, and then Saturday morning we usually finish things up, and then print out a couple extra to like distribute through the following week. But it always ends up that there's like a stack of like 10 or 20 that we have to print the next week because someone asks us for something, or whatever it is. In general, we distribute like around 150 to 180 copies a month.
And does it cost you a lot of money to print those?
We print them at home, so it's just like the cost of paper and ink and our time. But so far we've mostly used paper that we got from Lancaster Creative Reuse, actually, which is just like
That's where I get all my paper, by the way.
Yeah, well, except for the fact that we like bought them out of legal size paper.
Oh no.
So if you ever see any there, hit us up. But
for sure.
We bought paper only one time, and it was like just 2 reams. But other than that, everything's been Lancaster Creative Reuse paper.
The reason why we settled on like the form of legal paper was before we had like the concept of doing the newspaper like really like as like a tangible idea we were working towards. We were at Lancaster Creative Reuse and in the paper section, and there was some nice canary yellow paper that we got, and then we were like, oh, this is legal size. And we were like, I'm sure we could figure out something to do with that. And sure enough, we were talking about doing the paper, and then Sarah ran into like my office holding like stapled together legal paper, and she was like, I've got it. And that's that. We've been doing legal paper ever since, but it came from that like dedication to sustainability and also the side benefit of cheap paper.
Totally. Yeah, no, I mean, there was a period. We have a Riso printer in our living room, literally.
No way.
I know. Hashtag blessed, right? We drove to Pittsburgh to get it, and I actually ended up being really, weirdly enough, it was on my birthday.
That's like, amazing.
I was kind of grouchy. I was like, I didn't really want to go to Pittsburgh for my birthday, but then we had so much fun in Pittsburgh. There's so many great museums there.
I love Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pittsburgh rules. Seriously, that we had such a good time that the next year we went to Pittsburgh for my birthday too.
That's so cute.
Shout out Pittsburgh. Great art stuff happening there. But anyway, when we got that Riso, so like not last August, but the August before that is when our Riso came into our lives. At that point, the Lancaster Creative Reuse had so much sick legal paper.
I know. It's actually so tragic. I heard that, like, one of the volunteers there, it was something like their husband worked at, like, a paper factory, and so they would take all the, like, rejects, and that's why. But I think that, like, a lot of the Lancaster Creative Reuse, like, personnel has changed over, so I think it's, like, that's why it's on the decline.
Oh, no. That is so tragic to me. You know, I'm just going to say here, I don't remember the name of it, and I haven't been there yet. I always mean to go. There is another creative reuse place in Ephrata. Have you heard about this place?
It's Heart of the Recycle.
Yes. Okay. Have you been there?
So no, but do you know about Steph Holmes? She's an artist that's based in York. She runs it's like a secondhand art swap every year in York. It's at one of the like county parks here, and you should come if you
Yeah.
I'll give you the date for the next one. But yeah, it's open to the public, and anyone can like bring, it's all like, you know, no money exchange, just all like swap of creative art supplies. And then whatever's left over at the end, they have like a partnership with Art of the Recycle, and like some guy with a truck shows up and everyone loads in all the extra stuff and it gets taken to Art of the Recycle. So that's why I know about it.
Oh, okay. So that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
One.
it is.
Two, I've never been there because they have sort of like strange hours, just like strange hours for me.
I mean, welcome to this area. Like everything's
I know.
unless
True
you're
story.
free between the hours of like 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on a Saturday, you will never get anywhere.
I know. When we first moved here, I seemed to just have like more time randomly in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, when I could go do things like that. And now I just like have so much work that I can only go on the weekends to things. So like I totally miss out on all these incredible things like that creative reuse in Ephrata. Because Ephrata is also, it's a little bit of a drive from where I live. Like it's probably like an hour. Yeah. But also in Ephrata is this grocery outlet called Ebenezer's, and they get a lot of vegan food there. So
no way.
Shout out to anyone who lives remotely in the area. Make a day of it. Go to Art of Recycle. Go to Ebenezer's.
Okay, I'm interested in that. I never heard of that.
Yeah. And like there also is a pretty good reuse it shop, like thrift store out there. Mm-hmm. And you're really close to the Green Dragon, which, you know, is like a flea market. And there's a couple other like cool antique malls sort of in that zone. So I guess this is like a pro Ephrata podcast, really.
Hashtag Ephrata.
Hashtag Ephrata. We're going to make it trend. But yeah, anyway. You know, all that to say is that perhaps you should reach out to them about legal size paper, because I feel like they get a lot of stuff. I say that without like ever having been there. So just what I've heard.
No, we definitely should. Like we need.
Yeah. And if anybody's listening to this who lives in central Pennsylvania and you happen to have some legal size printer paper, reach out. Okay, well, we know
Please
a home
hit
for
us
it.
up.
Yeah.
Any color really. Like we started on yellow and then we were white, and now like I would really love to go back to like a different colored paper kit. I think it's just kind of like adds some spice to it. But like obviously needs to be like something so that black ink would show up on it. But yeah.
That's so cool. And I love that you are using upcycled or like, I don't know, secondhand paper. I always call it like secondhand paper. That's what I use for printing everything. But then I'm like, secondhand paper sounds so strange.
Well, and then I had this like kind of like harebrained idea where I was gonna like collect the like old copies of the misprint that nobody took from a store and like blend it up and make my own paper that we would print on. But Matthew like talked me off the ledge, and he was like, that is gonna not be the right thickness and you're gonna like cause a problem.
Yeah, that's gonna be a nightmare. But I appreciate the idea of it all. Let's take a moment to thank some of the incredible small businesses who keep Clotheshorse going via their generous Patreon support. Slow Fashion Academy is a size-inclusive sewing and pattern-making studio based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Designer and fashion professor Ruby Gertz teaches workshops for hobbyists and aspiring designers so that anyone can learn the foundational skills of making, mending, and altering their own clothes. Several times per year, Ruby offers her flagship Sloper Workshop, an in-person 2-day pattern-making retreat where you will learn how to drape a set of basic block patterns that capture your unique shape and proportions. You can also use these basic block or sloper patterns as a foundation for infinite styles of garments that are custom made to your body's one-of-a-kind contours. Or compare your sloper to commercial patterns to see where you might need to alter the shape. No more guessing at full bust, flat seam, or sway back adjustments. Start with a foundation that fits. Ruby also provides professional design and pattern making services to emerging slow fashion brands and occasionally takes commissions for custom garments and costume pieces. She has also released several PDF sewing patterns for original designs under her brands Spokes and Stitches and Starling Petite Plus. I just want to also add here on a personal note that right now Ruby is actually working with me to create a one-of-a-kind, unique to me special dress that I will be wearing for all future Clotheshorse events, including live episodes later this year in the Pacific Northwest. I am so excited to work with Ruby because she is so talented. and so knowledgeable about all things clothing creation. Check out the schedule for upcoming workshops, download PDF sewing patterns, and learn about additional sewing and design services at www.slowfashion.academy. And it's important for me to tell you that that's slowfashion.academy. Selena Sanders, a social impact brand that specializes in upcycle clothing using only reclaimed, vintage, or thrifted materials from tea towels, linens, blankets, and quilts. Sustainably crafted in Los Angeles, each piece is designed to last in one's closet for generations to come. Maximum style, minimal carbon footprint. Republica Unicornia Yarns, handmade yarn and notions for the color obsessed. Made with love and some swearing in fabulous Atlanta, Georgia by head yarn wench Kathleen. Get ready for rainbows with a side of giving a damn. Republica Unicornia is all about making your own magic using small batch, responsibly sourced, hand-dyed yarns and thoughtfully made notions. Slow fashion all the way down and discover the joy of creating your very own beautiful hand-knit, crocheted, or woven pieces. Find us on Instagram at Republica_Unicornia_yarns and at www.republicaunicornia.com. Cute Little Ruin is an online shop dedicated to providing quality vintage and secondhand clothing, vinyl, and home items in a wide range of styles and price points. If it's ethical and legal, we try to find a home for it. Vintage style with progressive values. Find us on Instagram at Cute Little Ruin. Deco Denim is a startup based out of San Francisco, and it sells clothing and accessories that are sustainable, gender fluid, size inclusive, and high quality, made to last for years to come. Deco Denim is trying to change the way you think about buying clothes. Founder Sara Matthew wants to empower people to ask important questions like, where was this made? Was this garment made ethically? Is this fabric made of plastic? Can this garment be upcycled? And if not, can it be recycled? Sign up at decodenim.com to receive $20 off your first purchase. They promise not to spam you and send out no more than 3 emails a month, with 2 of them surrounding education or a personal note from the founder. Again, that's decodenim.com. This is not a project that is out of reach for anybody, right? And you don't need to go as hard as Sara and Matthew are and like type it on a typewriter and print it on secondhand paper, but you also could. I do want to. This podcast is in no way sponsored by Figma. Like I said, I literally pay for it. But what I am finding is a lot more zine people that I talk to are like, yeah, I use Figma for everything, and I'm like, oh my god, me too. We have so much in common. Yeah. Hashtag Figma, hashtag Ephrata. But, there are a lot of different ways that someone could do this. What advice would you give someone who's trying to start something like this? It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but this idea of what the misprint is. What advice would you give them?
I think one of the biggest things is that if you feel like you have the need to do this, or like that you want something like this to exist, there's going to be other people out there that will also want it to exist. Like prior to like making this, nobody ever like said to us like, oh boy, wouldn't it be great if all of the events were collated in an offline only paper? But now that we like hand it to people, they go, this is great. I've been off Facebook for years. I haven't been able to like get to events because I just don't know when they're happening. And now they have something. And like we've met a lot of people that like are really into it, even though it is like such kind of a niche thing that they wouldn't do themselves. So yeah, that is to say, if you feel like you've got a project that you really care about, someone else will care about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is some people maybe have like thought about starting something like this on their own, but they just don't know where to begin, so they haven't, and they would be so stoked to be a part of what you're doing, or they're just like so glad that it exists.
Yeah.
Totally. And like you also like shouldn't you shouldn't wait for to like that validation that Matthew's like describing. Like it will probably happen naturally, but like just because, you know, the first time you mention something, you don't have 10 people being like, oh, I want to help with that, I can do that, I'm gonna come and whatever. Like who cares, you know? Like you should do it anyway because you want to do it, and like eventually it will like come to fruition and make the impact. Like I think that both of us are just like such big proponents of like only you have the power. It's like Smokey the Bear. Only you have the power to like do like control your own life and do what you want to do, and like nobody's gonna do it for you. If you want to like see an event happen, you should be the one to do it. If you want to see a newspaper happen, like you should do it, you know? Like the state of print media and even like non-print media, journalism in general in the country is like in a bit of a sad state, just like in terms of you know, the corporations like buying everything and like making it inaccessible for you know, public journalism to have like a real punch like it once did. And I think that like Matthew and I recently read a book called Finally Got the News, which I recommend. It's like about like printed media from the political left in the 70s that like really had an impact on different movements. And it's like everything from like pamphlets to flyers to newspapers to everything that like the people were just doing. And this was like before computers were widely available, like before like people had a printer, you know. It was like literally people like using their typewriter, drawing things, sketching it, making copies in like public libraries probably, and then like, you know, putting it up around the town. And like that kind of stuff is just like, that's what it's all about to me. Like there's no reason why we can't do that now, just because like social media exists and it's like less common to do so. Nobody can like censor a piece of paper. So like you can just do that, and it can be like truly what you believe and not what anyone else is telling you to print.
Totally. I love that. I think it's so true. I mean, people may not like consciously realize this, but they might have sort of like a hint of it in the back of their minds. Content on social media is being censored in one way or the other. Maybe it's not like overtly being like removed, but absolutely is being pushed down in the algorithm, because the algorithm itself predicts the likelihood of the content being like flagged by users as like offensive or objectionable, whatever. The algorithm calculates that on its own by like, you know, scanning the content of it. And so if it thinks it's going to be reported, it pushes it down in the algorithm so less people see it. And so, yeah, like we are actively being censored every day, whether we realize it or not.
And we censor ourselves. Like we choose not to post something because we're worried that like the cops on our phone are gonna like do something about it.
Absolutely.
And you know, or we're like scared of what someone else might think and all these other things. So like being able to like take a step back from like the peanut gallery, so to speak, and just like put something out that doesn't have like surveillance built into it is also like very freeing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, going back to this idea that like if you kind of build it, they will come eventually, you know. I mean, that's like the story of Clotheshorse. I started it in my bedroom 6 years ago.
Heck yeah.
And, you know, now people all over the world listen to it. And what's great is because I'm not like beholden to anyone, I can say whatever I want.
Right.
And that's pretty sick. Yeah. And it, you know, it lets me, it challenges me creatively, and it lets me like tell my truth without fear of someone shutting that down, without it being pushed down in the algorithm of life, so to speak. So, you know, if you don't want to start a newspaper or a zine, although I don't know why anyone wouldn't want to, because it's really gratifying, you know, maybe it is like you start a podcast or something. I think that we've been so hung up that the only way you can get people to hear you is to post on social. Yeah. And I just don't think that's true anymore. I listened to an incredibly depressing episode of the NPR show 1A this morning, which perfect timing for the conversation we're having, which was basically like, you know, people's mental health and like cognitive health is being just like destroyed by short form social media content. And just how like it's affecting our ability to focus, our ability to like understand information or dissect complex ideas. But because it also comes at us at such a rapid clip and it's so addictive, it also is like affecting our mental health really adversely. And I just feel like nothing could make you feel better than typing up a newspaper.
Yeah, and I also feel like genuinely, I can't imagine anyone would read the like articles that we've been publishing if I like posted them on my Instagram in a caption. Like,
well, no one reads captions except for the elite few, and those are my favorite people.
Heck yeah.
But I'm constantly shocked by people just like not reading a caption. I'm like, what? Don't you want some words with your pictures?
That's what I mean. Like, I think that like, you know, just because you can post on social media and it's easy, like, and you have a like audience of however many people, and like, you know, obviously this is so on a case-by-case basis, like I'm speaking about my like you know, like niche follower group. Like, I'm not like exposing ideas to new people through that. Everyone that follows me on Instagram are my friends and they agree with what I'm probably saying, you know, like totally. It's like this is just not doing anything, you know. But when we publish like, you know, our 4 articles a month and they're things that are on our mind and they like affect local issues, and it's like telling people about how these like global issues can be, you know, addressed locally by city council meetings or whatever it is, like that feels so much more impactful than making a social media post, because like somebody can do something about it and it's someone that like, you know, if you're reading this, it affects you because you're in the area where this stuff is happening. So like, even if you're just passing through, like you should know about it. And like that is like not the case for social media. Like you could be posting about something that like really has no kind of like call to action whatsoever, because it's just like old man yells at sky kind of situation. Which just like serves to, you know, that's like how doom scrolling happens, because like you just feel like you're, you know, bogged down by every bad thing that's happening in the world with no way to do anything about it. And so like when people can feel like empowered by literally even doing the smallest thing locally with people that they actually like can talk to face, like, oh my gosh, is that like a weight off your shoulders, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's also why we, I can't, Sarah, do you remember which issue we started putting it in, the city council meeting information?
It was after we went to the first city council meeting to do the article about the surveillance cameras in York.
Right. Yeah. So it was like very much a, I don't know, kind of like a reaction to a lot of like federal and maybe even state politics feeling so, I don't know, out of control. And like what can we do at that level into like a meaningful degree, kind of like without organizing anything like locally and putting a focus on the fact that a lot of like big issues start in local communities. And by like being able to put in the York City Council meetings of when they're going to happen. I don't know if anyone's actually going to go from that, but like the awareness that like, hey, this is here, it's going on, and I thought it was important enough that you should know what it is. I don't know, and just kind of trying to like raise some awareness of the fact that they're like at a smaller scale, there's stuff we can participate in that can make a difference.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, here in Lancaster, to me, it's been actually such a great lesson on what an impact we can have locally. Over the past couple months, several different groups here have been going to like every city council meeting for all of these like small towns out here and pressuring the town to pull themselves out of agreements with ICE.
Yeah.
And it's been
the
successful.
Same thing happening here. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. And so, like, I think that we tend to get caught up in the big elections, like the president, you know, maybe the governor, maybe even, hopefully our senators and representatives. But, like, I'm going to tell you, like, our congressperson and our senators here for Pennsylvania kind of suck. Like I email and call them constantly, and the auto replies make me insane with rage. But like, and so every time I reach out to them, I'm just like hoping that at least like the number of people reaching out to them is going to have an impact on them somehow. But I will tell you here, like all you have to do is show up at these meetings, and you have such power over what happens in your immediate area. And I will tell you, like, you know, I think it was like a year and a half ago, we had a lot of like Republican, like anti-immigrant sentiment, like sort of permeating the city council here in Lancaster, which is incredibly problematic. Well, problematic anywhere, but here we're like considered the refugee resettlement capital of the United States. And to have the government here being like, you know, we don't want any more people who aren't from here and trying to make life harder for them was really frightening. And actually, like, the Mennonite communities here really pulled together and pressured them to make Lancaster a sanctuary city. And
well, yeah, I mean, that's why it's the refugee resettlement capital, the Mennonites, you know.
Exactly. And it makes this like such a special place to live because it is incredibly diverse. And I think like seeing just how local action actually affects the quality of life for everyone around, everyone here in Lancaster County is impacted by the fact that this is the refugee resettlement capital of the United States. And I mean, it's impacted in an incredibly positive way.
Totally.
And just seeing like how people, you don't need to like go to the president or even your senator, and you can actually make life better for people is like a lesson that I think we don't get enough in like our high school like civics classes, honestly.
Right.
So I'm glad that you put the city council meetings in there.
No, it's a big one for us. And like, I think that, yeah, I mean, if everyone went to their city council meetings and that happened everywhere, then that would like proliferate up to the top. So
yeah, I mean,
that's how it happens.
In LA, you could watch them on like this like local cable access show, and sometimes I would just randomly put it on for background noise because my television didn't get any channels, like most of us, and you know, sometimes I'd be like, whoa, there's like really weird people here, and that's really interesting. But sometimes I would be like, whoa, I didn't even know that's a thing that the city considers. Like, this is eye-opening to me. And there are these issues happening all around us that we might not know about because we're not going to read about them on Instagram. No one's making TikTok videos about them. They're not going to be in the New York Times. And the York Daily Record only comes out once a week now. So, you know, what's going to be in there?
Right. No, exactly. Matthew, you should plug White Rose Community Television if you weren't already.
Oh, yeah. Like you're describing in LA, the York City council meetings, they're broadcast on and through White Rose Community Television, which is I think one of the oldest like community television programs in the United States. I think it had been running since like the 60s, or one of the oldest continuously operating. Yeah, I think that's it. I had spoke with the station manager a few months back and did an article about it because as I was reading more into it, I was just blown away by like the sheer availability and accessibility of it. Like if you are in like York, in like the York area, if you have a show, if you have a show idea, you can go get trained and then broadcast your show like weekly, just out and like, you know, live stream it to whichever platforms you want.
For free.
Wow, that's amazing.
If you have a pre-recorded show, you can send it in, and then it'll be added to the rotation and just added on schedule of, like, it'll broadcast your show. And if you're hosting an event for like a small fee, they'll come out and like have all the equipment set up to like live stream your event and like capture it and broadcast that out. And it's like such a
And then they let you like also stream it to like your own YouTube channel or website, like if you want to like cross stream it, and that's like no additional cost.
Wow. Okay, this is amazing.
Yeah. It's such a crazy resource that like is like underutilized. It operates at a surplus, and it costs like no taxpayer money because of how it's like funding through like Comcast. It's crazy, and like that was like a really important thing to like highlight, because like that's kind of the spirit of the paper of like the misprint could be a TV show where we just get up there and yap for a little bit. Like that's the same spirit of it. And it's really cool to see that there's these resources available to us.
And people use it. Like the shows that are on White Rose Community Television are so cute. Like it's just like, you know, some of them are political, some of them are just like people talking, but like anyone can do one. Like I think that we should do one, you know, but like this is like phase 2, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that like people aren't aware of these resources that like exist in their own bubble, because they're not like, you know, there's no marketing budget for White Rose Community Television, obviously. So like you kind of have to just know about it. And so that's like the beauty of being able to put it in the misprint and like explain it to people and encourage folks to do it themselves.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think too, like this just hits on this idea again that we often feel like the only way we can like get our voice out there at this point is social media, and that's just fundamentally not true. And furthermore, you're probably going to reach more people in a more meaningful way off of those platforms, because the right people are going to be kind of more likely to hear what you have to say. Which does bring up one other question that I have for you, which is that you do not have social media accounts for the misprint, and I wanted to hear why.
Basically for those reasons that you just said. I feel like so excited about every part of the misprint. I don't want any part of it to feel like it's not representative of the things that we like feel excited about. And I also feel like, you know, the people that we would probably like attract on social media are people that wouldn't be able to like pick it up locally, or like wouldn't be able to benefit from it in the community. And that's not really our audience. Like it doesn't mean that like we don't show it to friends when they visit from out of town, or like bring it to people when we travel elsewhere. But like really like the goal is for people that live here to see it. And like that wouldn't necessarily be the people that would be finding us on Instagram. So it really has this kind of like offline spirit and analog media focus. And the only like online presence that we have is Matthew made like a 90s style website that's like our archive. And so it just has like old PDFs of the misprint. So if someone wanted to like get caught up, it never has the current issue for the same reason, because I want people to like hold it in their hands, which is maybe like a tad selfish, but it's just like part of our ethos. But like as soon as the new issue comes out, we put the last issue on. So like right now Matthew's thinking about uploading the March one, since we just put the April one out last weekend.
Cool. And I will share that link in the show notes, so everybody who's so curious about the misprint and doesn't live in New York can check it out, and hopefully it'll get you really inspired, because I feel like this is in the grand scheme of things kind of an easy way that you can connect with your community. You don't need a lot of materials to make it happen. You don't need a lot of resources or budget or anything like that. You can just sit down and do it. And I think one of my big takeaways of when you were explaining the process of creating an issue is you have to go out and talk to people.
Yes.
And I think for some people that sounds like a nightmare, but imagine if you have to go out and talk to people, but it's like a legitimate reason as the conversation starter. And so you don't have to just be like, hey, like, what kind of stuff do you like? Or something awkward like that. You can just be like, hey, I do this thing. Do you have any events coming up? Like, blah, blah, blah. It is a door opener, and you don't have to be anxious about it.
It's hugely a door opener.
No, I would totally agree with that. Like, I think Sarah's definitely like more extroverted than me. But it's like so easy it's so easy to like kind of walk into a space and ask them this really bizarre thing because you have it in your hand.
Yeah.
Like, I've got a hyper local newspaper. Can I put it in your store? It gives like some weird credibility that just like, I don't know, kind of assuages most of like my anxieties about like entering into like a kind of weird conversation. And one of the like more unique spaces that me and Sarah have like found ourselves in because of the paper is this recurring meeting in this recurring monthly meeting in York called the Creative Exchange. And it's like a meeting that's like primarily between like business owners and nonprofit coordinators and directors and people who are like running like capital O operations in York to kind of coordinate and like be on the same page and support each other as different initiatives are happening. And so Sarah and I were lucky enough to like be invited or recommended to go to that. And so then we were initially showing up there kind of having no real qualifications to be there other than we have a home printer. And like now we're regulars at that kind of meeting, and like it is helpful to hear these people speak about what they have planned. It's like kind of instrumental in adding some events and previewing what's to come and knowing where we should focus our energies.
That's awesome. Do you have any final thoughts, words of wisdom, whatever that you want everyone to hear?
Like, I think that it really is just like so up to you, like what happens in your general bubble. And like, I think that like Matthew and I are lucky in that like we kind of like have found ourselves in these groups of people like he just described with the Creative Exchange that has these like nonprofits or whatever. We got kind of siphoned into that because we have friends that were involved with it. But like, I think that you can also find yourself in these spaces. Like I know in Matthew's words, like he always said that one of the more like selfish reasons for us starting the paper was just to like ourselves, like to know what was going on in York and to like have a community. And we were brand new to the city when we first like started doing this. Like the things will grow as you grow. Your connection to the area will grow. Like you don't have to. This is also true for like starting an event or like running for local council or whatever it might be. Like I've heard from like a lot of people that like are thinking of running for some kind of like hyper local office that they feel like they need to like have some kind of like credentials in order to start. And I think that like your credentials are that you care enough to want to start.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people like that you are seeing win right now, the only credential that they have is that they're like a little bit older than you maybe, or that they've like been around the block a little bit more, and like age just gives them like confidence and like context to do things, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily more like qualified to do XYZ thing or to like start something. Like anyone can do it, and like then when you start, then you are suddenly qualified. So like especially when you create your own situation, like newspaper or event or whatever it is, like you don't have to like wait to get accepted into a program or like submit some kind of like application. Like you are the application. You've done it. Congratulations. So like it's like building whatever comes your way and like into what you want it to be.
I think that is great advice.
And I think like going along with that, it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be a big production, whatever you're like setting out to do. Like, I mean, we called it the misprint, MSPRINT, kind of like as a joke of like we're gonna mess up, and sure enough, with like the inflexibility of the typewriter, there's a lot of like smudges and Sarah Xing out letters and typos that find its way in there that we leave in there because it's kind of like character of it. I feel like in a world where in like an online world where everything is so polished, and it's relatively easy to like develop skills to really hone a craft and like make a produced image or produced product. It's nice to have something that has like a bunch of like flaws and character to it, because like we were working on it. This is just what we made, and like making a paper that has some mistakes is like so much better than not making a paper because it wasn't perfect.
And it's also like a permission slip to anyone that like wants to submit, because it's like, we clearly are not like professional journalists. We don't have any kind of like background in this. You don't need to be a writer. You don't need to be an illustrator, like whatever it is. Like, you don't need to be perfect, because we're certainly not. And it's just like, please send us your ideas and help, because like that's what it's all about. And so like, I think that it makes it less intimidating for other people that feel like they could or would potentially want to contribute in the future also.
Yeah, I think like, I don't know, there's something so beautiful about mistakes and smudges, because it's the reflection of the human aspect of it all. And right now, with all of the AI slop that's like coming out of every corner of the internet and every app I open, it feels like more beautiful and special than ever when something is made by a human, and you can see the proof of that right there in front of you with the typo or whatever.
Right. AI could not make the misprint.
Definitely not. It would suck so bad. Well, thank you to both of you for taking some time to share this all with us. How do you feel about people who have questions reaching out to you for advice?
We would totally love that. Yeah. Our emails are sprinkled on the like online archive in the PDFs, but I'm sure that we can give you our emails as well. Like, it's like specific emails for the newspaper, and that's how we do our digital communication. So if that works for you, I think that would be great.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm totally going to share that, and I hope that you get lots of messages.
I would love that.
Yeah, I want everybody.
Please email me.
Yeah, please email, ask questions. Let's get some local newspapers everywhere.
Yes, please. Misprint Empire.
Yeah, totally. Thanks again to Sara and Matthew for spending some time with us. I'm going to share the website where you can find past issues of the York Misprint in the show notes. So that'll be there for you, right? And I'll also add their emails in case you are inspired to start your own free hyper-local newspaper, which I think sounds like an amazing project. I can't wait to see what you all put together. I know someone who listens to this is going to do it, and I'm just like so excited about what happens next. I want to wrap up this episode by saying, you know what? Change is in the air. Seriously, it's not just all the pollen going to my brain, although I have felt slightly delirious for the past 3 weeks thanks to allergy season. But I can feel change happening. There is something going on out there, and I know you know what I mean. I think we can end this year feeling a lot more optimistic than when we started last year even. So please, please don't give up. Don't burn out. Don't shut down. We're gonna get through this, and hopefully we'll come out smarter and more effective than ever. Let's be good for this world. Thanks for listening to another episode of Clotheshorse, written, researched, edited, hosted, all the things by me, Amanda Lee McCarty. If you liked this episode, you liked what you heard, please leave a rating, a review, subscribe, tell your friends, all the things that get more people listening to Clotheshorse. If you'd like to support my work financially, there are numerous ways you can do that. You can find them all in the show notes. Seriously, be one of the most elite people who actually look at the show notes. There's all kinds of information in there. Lastly, but of course, never leastly, thank you so much to my other half and my partner in cat trapping, Mr. Dustin Travis White. Thank you for our music. Thank you for our audio support. Thank you for getting up early and getting cats into traps. And I'll talk to you all next week. Bye.